All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fort Worth HR Benefits and Compensation Peg for March 2024. We are almost through first quarter already. I am a co-host, Doris Frencher with the Benefit Boutique, focusing on small groups, helping them get benefits so they can be more competitive at attracting and retaining talent. And then my co-host, the awesome Susan Snipes. Want to introduce yourself, Susan?
Sure. In brief, I'm a fractional human resources consultant and co-host of a strange but informative podcast called Awkward with HR. I invite you to check it out, and you're welcome, and I'm sorry.
There you go. I love it. I love it. And put that podcast in the chat, and everyone else start putting your LinkedIn profiles in the chat. Well, I make way for our amazing speaker, Michelle Jolivet. I heard her at an event a few months ago at the end of the year. And the funny thing is, like I had two events that day on communicating with different generations. The next event I went to was for employers that were having challenges growing their business. And the main consistent complaint was communicating with the cross-generational, multi-generational staff. And it was such an amazing experience because everything I had learned from her that morning, I was hearing it was being echoed by several other employers and HR professionals. So without further ado, I'm going to get out of the way. Michelle, thank you so much. I do want to ask everyone, please, if you could turn your videos off only so that those that are the recording could be clean for those that we're going to send the recording to. But please be interactive in the chat. Susan and I will definitely make sure we get questions to Michelle if they pop up. But again, without further ado, thank you so much, Michelle, who is in Colorado at a conference. She is joining us for lunch to educate and school us. This floor is yours, my dear.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And I'm so excited. I've got a lot of material to cover, so I'm going to go through it a little quickly because that way y'all can ask, hopefully, if y'all have any questions at the end. Again, sorry for my lovely background, but I am at a hotel. I'm at the WeBank conference in Colorado, which has been fabulous. So if y'all ever get an opportunity, it's a great conference to go to. So let's talk about cross-generational communication. I know there is a lot of frustration sometimes out there with, especially when we have hiring managers or managers or HR leaders that are of an older generation, such as myself. I am from the baby boomer generation, and how we look at the world is a little bit different, and how we look at how we look at our jobs and employment is a little bit different than this new generation that is coming in. And then there's a lot of mix in between. So let's kind of jump in and learn a little bit about the different generations. So out there right now, there are 6 different generations, but really 4 that are in the workforce. Certainly the silent generation in this graph is about 2 years old. So they're in their really 70s and 80s. The baby boomers are more in that right at the edge of upper 50s into the upper 60s and 70s. And then you've got your Gen X that are in your 40s and 50s, millennials that are kind of at the very end of their 20s and then into their 30s and early 40s. And then your new generation that is coming in now, which is Generation Z, they're at the edge of right at about 26 is at their top level, about 11 or 12 at their bottom level. And then right behind them is Generation Alpha, which is those that are about 1 year old now to about 12 years old, 10 to 12 years old. So, these are our generations that are out there. The big ones that we want to talk about are the baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Zs. And we'll kind of talk about, because baby boomers and Gen Zs tend to be kind of the furthest apart, we'll use them as our examples to start off. So when we talk about Generation Z, a lot of folks have stereotypes of what they think Generation Z is. And we see that, I hear employers or hiring managers say, oh, they're so entitled, they're so demanding, they're unrealistic, They're unreliable. They'll show up one day, they won't show up the next day. They don't have really good work ethic. And they expect all of this money for no work and no experience. They'll just jump in and they'll give their opinion when their opinion isn't asked for. Those are the stereotypes of Generation Z that I hear most often. But what Generation Z really is a very, very confident generation. I think they're going to be the greatest generation ever because they are demanding as employers and as cohorts that we change and that we do things better. We do things better for them. We do things better for the planet. We do things better from a social justice perspective. They are demanding more. And because of the way that talent acquisition is right now, with certainly, as many of you know, that it's harder to find people, that is not going to change. They're in a much different position of power from an employer to an employee position, and they can demand more. They tend to be highly collaborative. They tend to be very direct. They have no problem normally, and again, every individual is an individual, but in general, they have no problem just jumping into a room that has a CEO or C-level staff there and giving their opinion. They are very confident and direct. They tend to be very self-reliant. They tend to be pragmatic in that they want things to be done efficiently and effectively. And if they don't think they're being done efficiently and effectively, they'll tell you so. And they're also very, very creative. On the other side, we have the boomers, as some people refer to us, okay, boomer. And they're described, and when we think about negative stereotypes, as technophobes. I know I recently was hiring for a company, helping them with their hiring process, and I could tell that they didn't want to hire anyone that was more tenured in their age because they had this hesitancy that they're not going to understand our technology. And that is so not true, but there is that perception out there, and it definitely hurts sometimes boomers as they're trying to find employment, is there's that fear that they won't be adaptable to technology. Certainly workaholic, and there is a very strong work ethic. You know, baby boomers can tend to be wasteful. I can tell you like that, I will tend to print out tons of pages of things instead of just looking at it on my email. I have to print it and look at it. I waste paper. I hit reply to all too often. You know, baby boomers can sometimes be not as adaptable, and there's this perception that they don't care about the earth and they don't care about the youth. But in reality, what we see is a generation that is very, very loyal. They're loyal to the relationships. They're loyal to work. They have a strong work ethic. They tend to be very goal-oriented, very optimistic. They really want to build relationships, and they value those relationships. And we have to think, when we think technology, although they're not native to technology, baby boomers are the ones that really invented most of the technology that's out there today. So they're very, very comfortable with it. And they bring to your workforce, if you look at a multi-generational workforce, a great breadth of knowledge and history. And so that you can bring in and really teach younger folks and younger generations all about. But every generation really is looking for the same things. As much as we're very different, we also are very aligned, and we all want to be valued. We all want to be heard, and we all are defined by our purpose. But it's how we define each of those things, how we are valued and how we are heard, and what our purpose is different for each generation. And that's where sometimes there's that communication, is that how I value what I see as valuable from a baby boomer or Gen X in comparison to a millennial or Gen Z, and what my purpose is very, very different. So let's look at each of those generations. So we'll kind of go through each of the generations so you can get kind of a baseline, and then we'll talk about how do we get them to work together, and what's going to help us with that. So history for our baby boomers, they're between about 59 to mid to late 70s right now, raised by the silent generation. So raised by that generation that said, don't speak until you're spoken to. And so they kind of have that sense of authority of you need to earn your way. They truly believe that you must pay your dues. Nothing is gained without hard work. And that it's really important that we're visible in the workplace and that we are working really hard. And that authority comes with experience. And they're very duty and responsibility oriented. They really want to make sure that they're driven by that sense of responsibility. And when you think about a boomer, often, and I know this is true for myself, is that my job and my title define who I am. It was so important for me in my career to kind of build that career, to build up those building blocks and to get the titles that I wanted. And often we saw a lot of folks, especially during COVID, that when they lost their job, they kind of lost that sense of who they are. For baby boomers, when they retire, they lose that sense of who they are because their job and their title define who they are. And for other generations, that's just not true for them. And so trying to understand that and how baby boomers think from that perspective helps us understand how to communicate and how to motivate them better. From a Generation X, that next generation, also known as the latchkey kids. And so a lot of them were raised by baby boomers in the silent generation that were at work all the time. So we left these kids at home and they became latchkey kids. They were often, you'll find them to be very independent, self-sufficient, resourceful, because of their ability to get things done, because they often didn't have parents around as much as we had our parents around as baby boomers. And right now they're going through a lot of struggles because they're still caring for their kids, and sometimes they're also caring for their parents. They definitely want to be known and are more defined by, I am more than my job. Unlike the baby boomers who were defined by their jobs, they watched their baby boomer parents work and get laid off, especially during the 80s and the 90s, and realized that companies weren't as loyal to them, and they didn't want to be that loyal. They didn't want to be defined by their job and not be there for their kids. So for them, work-life balance is so critical. They want to play hard, have fun, and work hard, but they definitely don't want to be defined by just their jobs. So there's a difference between them and the baby boomers from that perspective. Then we move into the millennials, and the millennials had the Gen X parents who were a little bit more helicopter, who, got a trophy for doing everything. For them, looking at the team is so important. They're very much more global, civic, and open-minded. They tend to be very collaborative. They tend to really look at things from a team's perspective, understanding that that's how they were raised. For them, diversity is very important. And what they're looking for when they're looking for communication is often very honest and authentic communication. And so what defines them is they really want you to get to know them so that they can make the world a better place for everybody. And so that's more what they're looking for. They're more that collaborative team. And again, every one of them is an individual and it's going to be different. But as a generation, that's what they tend to think, or how they tend to think. So then we move into our Generation Z. These are the ones that are now coming out of college and moving into the workforce. And these are digital natives. They tend to be very fast moving. The Twitter generation, I would say. And you have to think about them when you think about this generation, in that they grew up certainly very tech savvy, but everything that they sent out, when they sent out a tweet or when they sent out an Instagram, they would get an immediate response. So they're used to a very heavy response, immediate feedback. And that's one of the things that I hear, baby boomers get frustrated, because as a baby boomer, I'm like, I don't want my boss to give me feedback. I just want to go do my job. And kind of the same thing from Generation X. Whereas this generation that grew up with all of that feedback all the time, they're looking for that feedback. But they're also very, very purpose driven. For them, understanding that they're very concerned that the world won't be there. Global climate change is changing who they are. All these mass shootings really has them looking at life from more of a short-term perspective. So for them, they tend to be very, very progressive. They are 49% of them identify as racially or ethnically diverse. 22% of them identify as part of the LGBT community. So that diversity piece for them, even if they aren't diverse, the people that they grew up with, their sisters, their brothers, their best friends, are all diverse. And so working for a company that has that inclusion and diversity is very, very important to them. Very purpose driven. What they want and where they spend their money and where they spend their time is they want to be somewhere where their values are aligned. So they want to work for companies that have their same values. They want to purchase for companies that have their same values, that want the world to be better. For them, I will tell you that work isn't just a career path, it's an experience. And 40% of them that have full-time jobs right now also have a side hustle. So you have to understand that as you're looking at your business. They tend to be very creative, very innovative, and very, very innovative. They're looking for face-to-face. It doesn't have to be at work. It can be hybrid. It can be on FaceTime, but they are looking for that immediate feedback and that communication. For them, they're defined as I matter if my work matters. So they have to understand what's the purpose of your organization and how they fit into that. Not the title, but the purpose. That's what's important to this generation. Generation Alpha, that one that's coming up, very digital savvy. We'll kind of move on from them, but understand that they're coming up and they'll be more in that Generation Z vein, very collaborative, very inclusive, very entrepreneurial, very driven by efficiencies and innovation. So let's chat a little bit about what that looks like. So how do I motivate and communicate with the two different generations? Older generations tend to be more about formal communication. Younger generations tend to be about face-to-face, but casual. Yearly appraisals is what we're looking for in the older generation. Instant feedback on even the smallest task. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute thing, but if a Generation Z person sent out an email, they're looking for you to say, great email, great presentation, you could work on this. They want that direct, authentic, but immediate feedback on how they're doing, or they think they're not doing a good job. Generations, baby boomers, more about how much you spend at work, whereas the other generations are much more about millennials, about that hybrid and flexible workplace. Efficient task-based work, and not how many hours do I put in, but the work that I put in. You tell me to get this job done, I'll get that specific job done. And when I get it done, give me feedback on it. Our older generation, earn your status. Generation Z, I'm confident, I want to be heard today. Older generation, career path. Next generation is about a great experience. Meaning is critical. So baby boomers are about building that resume. Generation Z is more like a tree, in that every job is like a branch, and I'm going to go on this branch, and then I'm going to go on this branch, and then I'm going to go on this branch, and it's all going to be connected to my values, but they all don't have to build on top of each other like older generations think. They look at each of them as a different experience, a different branch of their life. From an average job, baby boomers, average length and role was usually about 8 years, Gen X about 5, millennials about 3, Generation Z 2 years and or less now is their average length. You have to look at your business model, and if that's how long they're going to spend at your employment, how can we best do that? And these are just some different ways to look at how they relate to work. From a perspective of baby boomers, look at team, they're loyal to their team, to their company, whereas like millennials were loyal to their colleagues. From a career perspective, baby boomers translate into self-worth. The Generation Z is more just a way to grow. Everything is about how do I grow? How do I change? When we look at how we look at authority, baby boomers are, let me show you what I can do for you. And Gen X, tell me what I can do for you. Millennials are, show me what you can do for me. And Gen Z is really more about, talk to me about what we can do maybe together, a little bit different. And then we're looking at, especially when we look at work style, and that's the one I want y'all to focus on. Baby boomers more structured, Gen X more flexible, millennials more fluid and agile for Gen Z. You got to move, change, and be ready to go. So how do I engage millennials and Gen Zers? Feedback, clear, direct, authentic, immediate. Very, very important to them. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, 80% of them will look on your website, and if they don't see a diverse a group and you don't have a DE&I statement and it doesn't match what your leadership looks like, they're not going to buy from you and they're not going to even apply for a job with you. Inclusive work culture, they want to be their authentic self. You have to have a brave and safe space for them. For them, they really want to grow. It's all about the experience. How am I growing? How am I getting better? And then that flexible, over and over, we're seeing that flexible work options. It doesn't have to be work from home, but that ability to be flexible. If I can get the job done, whether I do it on Sunday night or whether I do it on Monday morning, shouldn't matter, just as long as I get the job done. That's what they're looking for, is new workforces. And then really make sure from a technology perspective and a training perspective that it is technology driven. For example, if you're running a job ad, if a Gen Z can't apply for that job on their phone, then they're probably not going to apply for the job. They're not going to go down, and they might not even have a laptop. So you've got to make sure from a technical perspective that you do have technical savvy systems as far as onboarding and interviewing and hiring, and then understand the new tenure. So job satisfaction, we're seeing across the board that millennials and Gen Zers are the ones that are struggling the most with job satisfaction right now from the latest Forbes. And then we're seeing what are each of these generations looking for from a benefits perspective. SHRM just came out with a study that said that their number one for Gen Zers is PTO, number two is healthcare, and then number three is a 401k, that's important to about 65% of them. When we look at this study that came out this year, really that flexible work hours, and you can see that that is so critical for Gen Zers and millennials. That's the one that really is important to them. Mental health resources, and when we talk about mental health resources, I'm sorry, Susan, go right ahead.
You find that it almost like precludes Gen Zers from applying for certain types of roles because,
Yes,
you have positions where customers expect you to be available during certain hours,
yeah,
like how do you feel like that impacts your standard,
they want
any business that has customers that expect that?
it, you have to figure, as an organization, you have to figure out how to be as flexible as you can within your work model. But if there are ways that you can work around and be flexible with hours, then you need to do it in order to attract them, because this generation will go and find another job that does allow flexibility. And there are certain, I mean, in your work model, what are you going to do if you're service industry and you have to be there from 9 to 5? You have to be there from 9 to 5. But if you can figure out a way to get around it, it is hands down the most important thing. Make sense?
No, it does. Like everyone who works with me, I'm the only person who doesn't get flexible hours, It's sort of like if they can't, like they all get flexible hours, and then if they can't, then I do.
Yep.
Which is like super sustainable, let me tell you. But but yeah, no, it totally makes sense.
So just, you have to look at your business model. But if you, I mean, think outside the box, figure it out. Upskilling, critical mental health, and that is the availability, not just a wellness program, but really mental health, like meditation, safe spaces, those kinds of things are very, very important. Diversity and inclusion training and programs, team recognition, and that recognition needs to be individualized for that person, not just a general, hey, we're giving out bonuses, but hey, I know that person loves to travel. I'm going to give them a $500 gift certificate to go on a cruise because it's personal to them and it's an experience. And that's what's important to this next generation. So look at that when you're looking at benefits. Parental, very flexible. They're starting to have kids now. Flexible parental leave options, certainly, and flexible PTO, very, very important. Career path for them, stipends for learning management systems, technically driven, not big group learnings, but more tech driven type learnings that they can go in and learn at individually. That's what they like. And certainly for them, you can see the difference between performance appraisals are real important to baby boomers. Performance appraisals different in that they want small bits of performance appraisals for the younger generation. So that's what we're looking at for them. How do you keep them? Onboarding, tech driven, competitive compensation. And I know that it feels like Generation Z is asking for a lot of money, but understand their cost of living is crazy coming out of college in comparison to what came out of college for us as Gen Xers and baby boomers, what we can afford and what they can afford. Most of them, all they want is just to move out of their parents' house. So allowing them and paying them a competitive wage is so critical. So you have to be competitive and look at your total rewards. That's so important to them. Feedback, recognition reports, and reward program, upskilling, work from home, inclusive culture where they can be their authentic self. And then that collaborative work environment and where we not only talk about what we do and how we do it, but most importantly, why we do it and how I fit in. Just a couple more, just make sure you keep your job postings real short, very specific to the job. Focus on the skills and competencies needed, not all of the nice twos. They don't have the patience to read a long job posting. They want a short, quick, to the point job posting. Look at more than just hiring people based on their experience, but really, what am I looking for? Am I looking for people that are solution and problem solvers, that they have good trainability, that they're adaptable? Can I really look at it differently when I'm hiring and look at other things besides just their experience? And then really be proactive about how you look at your organization. Be more non-traditional. Hire for skills and competencies, not experience. What's really required? How can I use the gig economy or outsourcing instead of hiring a bunch of full-time people? Can I use the gig economy to help me? Can I use fractional services? Can I use retired or part-time folks? How do I develop my bench strength? And really look at hiring for people that are talented, not just that have that experience that you're looking for. So I wanted to leave just a minute or two at the end. I'm sorry I went through it so fast, but I had so much information. So what questions or challenges do y'all have?
That
Can I
was
just say,
amazing.
I
Thank
am
you
over
so
here
much.
shaking. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Thank you. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. My mind is blown. I started taking snippets of a slide. I was like, oh, I want to post this one. Oh, I want to post this one. I was like, okay, we just need the deck. I'm
I'll
gonna be
send you the
posting
deck.
everything. But go ahead. Let me get out of the way. Whoever has questions, please. It's your time. Okay.
No question is too big or too small.
No. Uh-oh, we got a message in here.
More compliments for our
They want
host.
your, yeah, bunch of compliments. They want the deck. Um, so many things, Michelle. When you said whichever generation does not have laptops, in my mind, I feel okay. So now I'm old because I do everything from my phone, and I like to print too. Like you said. And then the whole experience, that the tree and experience image, thank you. Because I wasn't getting it at first, like, what does she mean? but they want these different experiences to
Yeah.
be a part of something.
The branch
Oh
of
my,
the trunk is who they are, the core of who they are and their values. So they want to be connected with each branch. So each job they have is each experience is connected to who they are, and it creates a beautiful picture of who they are. They just look at life differently than we did. And I think they're fabulous, but we have to understand them in order to understand how to motivate them. So if I want to motivate them, I have to think about what is their purpose and what is my purpose, and how do I,
right.
and then make sure that I'm answering that purpose for them. And then I'm listening to them and valuing them and hearing them, because that's what they're looking for. That's how they feel valued.
Wow. Well, before we close out, Michelle, would you like to tell us how you can help those that are on the call today, what services you provide,
Yeah,
or just a quick your
yeah.
value prop and how you help?
Yeah, so I do DNI, and so I look at diversity from a age and race, gender, orientation, all of those things, and trying to help organizations, especially small and medium ones that don't have, a big DEI team. How do I create an inclusive work environment that invites everybody to be their authentic selves? Because that's how organizations are going to be successful. So we don't want to look at it from an exclusive, that we're looking to exclude people and we're only looking at this or that. We want to look at it as, how do we bring everybody together and get everybody talking so that we get the most out of everybody, that everybody brings value to the table. And the more diverse the experiences are on your team, the better your team, as long as they feel safe and can be their authentic selves at work. And that's what I help organizations do.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much, so much.
No problem.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. We do have our segment where if it's someone is hiring or looking for work, please can you give us a 20-second update on if you're hiring or if you're looking for work? And then we're gonna take our selfie and then we're gonna give you your Wednesday afternoon back. So, Michelle, can you stop sharing
Oh,
your
sorry.
screen so we can see and everybody could come back if they want? And
Yes.
then, yes, Susan is going to tell us about next month as well.
How do I stop? Pause. Stop. Stop. There it is. There it goes, sir.
Oh, and we
Okay.
wanted to we also, I don't know if we even have time, and I'm so sorry, but I wanted to just make sure that if anyone is in transition, wanted to hear from you, and if anyone is hiring, we would like to hear from you. So, if we could quickly, sorry for the quickly part, but if we could, is anyone here in transition? Okay. Is anyone here hiring?
Y'all making it real quick.
All
Okay.
right. Well, that was easy. All right. Carry on.
Well, Susan, tell us who do we have next month? You guys want to be right back here at the same place,
Mhm.
same
This
time,
is
third
timely.
Wednesday.
Yeah, this is timely. And this is something a lot of the companies I support, like maybe they try to do comp benchmarking through their PEOs or whatever, and it's extremely underwhelming. They'll get a hit back that's like, oh yeah, this position in this location for a company this size and this revenue could pay somewhere between $100,000 and $160,000. Like, okay, that was super helpful. Thanks for nothing. So, just learning some of the best practices around compensation benchmarking and the things we can do, the type of resources we can use to maybe get some more accurate data. And then even like within that, there's more to it obviously than just data. So Susie Hubbard she's the person that I go to for all of my compensation research, and she is very knowledgeable in this space because she does so much of it, and she would love to share her knowledge with you guys on our call next month. So, and if there's anything specific that you want her to cover, um, go ahead and let me know. You can direct message me and I can let her know to please include that in the presentation.
Awesome. I'm excited. All right, guys, for those of you that know how we roll, we do a selfie, us see groupie. So if you can, come on back off, on and turn off your video or turn on. Let me see your
Turn
face.
on your video.
That's what I'm trying to say. So we can do our wonderful selfie for LinkedIn, create
Oh,
fear of loss
yay,
for
thank
people
you,
that missed
guys.
us. 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Are my
Thank
eyes
you,
open? They're
guys.
never
I
open.
appreciate you so much. And also, if you have some more topics you'd like us to find speakers for within benefits and compensation and attracting and retaining talent, whatever, let us know. We are open to it and would love to help you with whatever any issues you may be having. All right. So here you go. You get your Wednesday back, y'all. Thanks for joining us this month. We appreciate you.
Thank y'all. Nice to meet y'all.